Hi guys, in today's video I've brought my mate Dimitri on again to review the season with you guys and with him as well. So cheers for coming on, mate.
Oh, thank you, Raz. Thank you.
So it's been a bit of a rough. It was a bit of a topsy-turvy season, wasn't it? At one point I didn't even think we was going to have a season. Did you think we was going to have a season?
After the cancellation of the Australian Grand Prix, I thought that it would be very difficult. But when we got to know the calendar and we saw what F1 tried to do about the safety of their personnel and team personnel, I thought that it would be possible to have a full season, or at least the 70 Grand Prix that they said they would do. And it's a great thing that they achieved that. It's a great undertaking that they really made it, and we had the season.
So let's get straight into this. So we started off at Austria for the first race. What did you think about it?
It was a pretty hectic weekend because drivers had to get the rust out of them and be a bit more active and trying to make up for the last months of not racing and the staying at home activities. But it was very nice, and we were this close to have an Alex Albon win, hadn't it been for the crash with Lewis Hamilton. But it was a pretty good weekend. And the Styrian Grand Prix was very nice because we saw that even in the same track, if you change a bit the weather conditions and stuff, you can have a much different race than the first one.
Yeah, I mean, we had a double header, didn't we? I mean, I was feeling really sorry for Alex Albon because I thought he could have won that race, and maybe it would have saved his career. But as you said, I mean, then we move on to the second Grand Prix, the Styrian Grand Prix. I mean, I was a bit skeptical to start with because of having the race, but with the weather and everything, it turned out to be a good race, didn't it?
Yeah, it was a good race, and Spielberg is a great track. Red Bull Ring is a great track, and they did it. And it was the first crash test for F1, if you like, because they were able to see how they would fare up with a double header in the same track, if it would be good for the spectators or the drivers and whatnot. So it got pretty well, and that was a good start for the season.
Yeah, and then we moved on to Hungary, didn't we?
Yep.
What did you think about that one?
I think it was the first time that we saw that Sebastian Vettel is a good, experienced driver, even though the car is not was not the one that he would like to have, because we saw Charles and Ferrari struggling in Austria, but Charles Leclerc did have a podium. Sebastian had a magnificent race in Hungary in variable conditions and whatnot, so that was pretty good. And we saw that Lewis Hamilton was back because he lost the first Grand Prix to Valtteri Bottas, and then he won Styria and Hungary in pretty dominant form, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I thought when we had the first race in Austria, I thought can Valtteri Bottas actually launch a challenge? You know what I mean? But he always tends to come out fast out the blocks, and then he tends to lose momentum.
Yeah, because he seems like he has the ability to get first on the line at the start of the year. He did it in 2019 at Australia. He did it in Austria this year. But you have to have the continuity, and you have to be there all season long, because the start is like one tiny part of the season. Hamilton then dominated. He took 11 wins, and he could have done 13 or 14 had he not had the COVID. So yeah, Valtteri starts well, but he doesn't have the longevity.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And then it was my favorite two races. The first British Grand Prix, because we had another double header, didn't we? We had the Silverstone, we had the British Grand Prix, and I mean, one, I mean, like, unfortunately, um, Sergio Perez got diagnosed with COVID, didn't he? And then they 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 made Hülkenberg do a super sub. So
yeah,
what did you think about that weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty weird because we got the first driver that had COVID, that had contracted COVID, and that was pretty, I wouldn't say scary, but it was not something that we knew how F1 would react at, because it was not Hamilton, which could have some championship implications. It was Sergio Perez, but he's a driver and he's a person that many people like, and we would like to see how that would be and if the race would be cancelled or something. But it wasn't. Nico Hülkenberg did sub for Sergio. He did pretty well on the second race because the first one he didn't he didn't start.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. I mean, I first thought that this is going to be like I thought there was going to be trouble, to finish the season, because I didn't know how well the how well the protocols are with dealing with positive COVID, but they've done quite well. And then obviously, as you said, the race went out without a hitch. I mean, I was really pleased for Nico Hülkenberg to get third in the qualifying. I mean, that was absolutely epic. I think I really wanted him to win that race, or at least get a podium, but unfortunately he didn't. He didn't even start the race because of a spark plug, wasn't it?
Yep. The third position that he took in qualifying, he took it on the second race in Silverstone. The first one he was like in the top 10 somewhere.
Oh yes.
And he didn't start. Yeah. But unfortunately, sometimes you believe that you would have a good race and then you don't start it because of a technical issue or something like Nico had. It was pretty unfortunate for him, but we had a pretty good race on the second Grand Prix in Silverstone, the 70th anniversary.
Yeah.
With the blowout of the tire and okay, you have 20 seconds to Verstappen, and Max was pushing to try to get Lewis, but he didn't. And it was a pretty hectic doubleheader in Britain.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm not a conspiracy person, but I really didn't. I was really gutted that they pitted Nico Hülkenberg, because he could have got third, but I was glad that he managed to make a comeback anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they tried to not have the same problem, actually. That's why they pitted them. They pitted him and Max. Red Bull pitted Verstappen as well. so as not to have a tire failure. But then again, things happen, and like the way they happen, and you don't know what would have been. Maybe Nico would have a tire puncture as well.
Yeah. So safety first, I reckon. So then we move on to the Spanish. Yeah, the Spanish Grand Prix.
Yeah.
So what did you think about that race?
It was more straightforward than the previous ones. I believe the Spanish Grand Prix was the least entertaining for the fans and the people that watched the race on TV, because it was a dominant one from Mercedes. They had the upper hand all weekend. It was in the middle of August, which is pretty unusual for F1 to race, with very hot temperatures in the Mediterranean. I mean, yeah, it was. I believe it was with Abu Dhabi, the least. We will remember them the least after the end of 2020.
Yes, so we can gloss over that one, because we both agree that it was pretty boring.
Yeah.
And then then we move on to the first Italian one at Monza.
Yeah, my favorite.
Your favorite.
Because I'm from Greece and we love Italy, and we loved all the Italian Grand Prix. I tell you, the Monza one, the Tuscan one, and the Emilia Romagna one. The Monza one was pretty special just because the podium, right? Because not only Pierre Gasly won, which was a pretty immense feat on its own, but we had Carlos Sainz in second and Lance Stroll in third. It was a pretty unique podium, if you like, because we didn't, first of all, no Mercedes, no Red Bull, no Ferrari, no Mercedes engine on the third place, I'm sorry. No Ferrari engine, if you like. It was pretty weird, but very nice for all the people that watched it. I mean, thank God Charles Leclerc didn't have any injuries after his impact at Parabolica. Lewis messed up with the pit stop and the timing with Mercedes, of course. They both messed up. So yeah, pretty weird.
Yeah, so obviously, I was really pleased for Gasly because I think it was only the second win for AlphaTauri.
I
mean, it was the first win for AlphaTauri, but they were called Toro Rosso when Vettel won his first Grand Prix with them. But I think that one was quite an emotional one. I mean, I think he really deserved that one. That was dominating. So what did you think about it? Do you think it's changed his stance within like the F1 paddock?
I think Gasly's talent is proven because he was pretty fast and reliable and consistent on his first year in F1 with Toro Rosso. But his 12 races with Red Bull somehow, messed up with his mind and his psychology. And thank God that when he went back to Toro Rosso, he was better. But, a win, even though it was in a pretty weird circumstances, I mean, he was first and he could have made a mistake or something. He didn't. He put up the laps. He had a good pace. He defended well to Carlos Sainz. That was enough for him to win. And I believe that this win also showed to the Red Bull family and Helmut Marko that he had to stay in Audi for 2021. And Danny Kvyat should leave, and that's what happened in the end with Yuki Tsunoda coming up. So yeah, it was a pretty important win and pretty good for us, for the spectators, for the journalists. We want a good story. We want something unique, so we can write about it and talk about it as we do now.
yeah, I mean, I was really emotional, like when I watched that one, and because I mean the amount of pressure and the amount of um the amount of sort of pressure he got under and the amount of criticism he got on was under as well.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I thought his Formula One career was over at one point. Um, but moving on then to Mugello.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, you know, I I only know that from MotoGP. Um,
Yeah.
although I don't watch it that often, but I do watch it occasionally. Um,
Hmm.
and did you think that we was able to have a good race there because it's mainly be, it was mainly used for motorbikes, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a pretty historic track. It still is a pretty historic track for two-wheel racing, MotoGP or other motorcycle categories. But it's a pretty great track. It's a fast track. It's a wide track. It has some pretty weird parts like the first chicanes, which we saw that provided some accidents and some crashes, especially at the first lap. It was a pretty weird race as well because drivers didn't know what to expect. Pretty unique territory, big long straight that gave us some good overtaking, and the pretty fast Arabbiata 1 and 2 on the second part of the track that but we saw the lateral crash, which was pretty scary if you ask me. Thank God he's alive and well.
Yes.
But yeah, it was pretty weird. But we had a good race, and many people, I believe, Mugello and Portimao, the Algarve
Yeah.
track, they want them back after watching races in those tracks this year.
Yeah. I mean, let again, um, again, let's move on to Russia. I thought Russia was pretty was pretty is a pretty boring track. I don't know
Yeah,
about I don't know about you, but if I was the FIA, I would definitely have Mugello um in and and remove Russia. Um, but anyway, what did you think about that race?
I mean, first of all, I have to say that Mugello we saw the first Renault podium, right? Then
Oh yes,
Ricciardo got a podium. Yeah, we forgot about it, but it was a pretty immense feat for him and the team. As far as Sochi is concerned, yeah, I mean, I get why they race in Russia. The same reason they race at China, at Bahrain, at Abu Dhabi. They need the money. They like the fact that they give them a lot of money to race there, and Mugello doesn't have that capacity. I mean, it was a one-off, and with the help of the Tuscan prefecture in order to have that race there. So Sochi, yes, it's very boring, as many of the Tilke tracks over the years, but can't get rid of it. Unfortunately, all we can do is like hope for a better track at Russia. I believe Russia is one of the countries that will have an F1 race as long as they have the money to support it, and FIA and Formula One want to race there. But yeah, it was a pretty boring race as well. So
yeah. So let's quickly gloss over that because
yep,
now it's my third favorite of the season. It's number 11, and it was the Eiffel Grand Prix, wasn't it?
yeah. I mean, that was a pretty weird race as well. I think that Nürburgring is a great track. It was a weird timing because you are from Germany. You should know the weather
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Uh, at this moment of the year, this time of the year. So yeah, not a good timing, but Nürburgring is a great track, and we had a great race as well there. But the financial aspect of it won't let it happen again, I believe, in the near future. But it was great. It was a nice race, even though Mercedes was pretty fast.
You know, yes, I mean Mercedes was pretty fast. I mean, like, I mean, have I mentioned the fact that I'm a massive fan of Nico Hülkenberg?
No,
um,
we didn't know.
yeah, you know, big hello to Nico Hülkenberg in case you're watching. I did write you a letter, and you never responded to come onto my unplanned F1 chat. But give me a message on Twitter, and then we can sort something out. But anyway, you know, I think it was quite remarkable what Nico Hülkenberg did, because this time round it was Lance Stroll who unfortunately got COVID.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm really surprised that the teams haven't got the reserve drivers as organized, because, you know, to be honest with you, although I'm glad that Nico Hülkenberg got the chance to race, but I'm a bit surprised that they don't let, you know, that the official reserve drivers didn't get to race, because what's the point in having reserve drivers?
Yeah, I mean, they have them as a solution for this kind of stuff. Especially this year, they were pretty important in case a driver had the COVID, and we saw that with Sergio, we saw it with Lance, we saw it with Lewis. None of them were substituted by the reserve driver of the team, which is pretty weird. But I get the fact, you know, the reserve driver is not, in most cases, is not a driver that has recent experience of racing, because if you exclude Stoffel van Dorn, who is racing at Formula E with Mercedes,
Yeah.
we have like Esteban Gutierrez, who doesn't have a super license, and then in most of the teams, the reserve driver is the same as the sim driver, and most of the times they don't have the track experience. Maybe Red Bull had Sebastian Buemi, but you know, many of the teams had to come up with other solutions. I believe only Haas used their official reserve driver, Pietro Fittipaldi. So Nico Hülkenberg is a capable driver, is a good driver, he knows the team. If he could do it at Silverstone, he could as well do it again at Nürburgring. He was at the track because he was about to commentate on the race for German television. So yeah, I mean, I get the point that why having reserve drivers if you don't use them, but most of the times the reserve drivers are kind of like the last not so comfortable for the team solution. If Mercedes could get George Russell, sure, George Russell, what the hell are you thinking about? So that's how they thought about it.
Yeah, but quick question for you. Do you think that's going to change? Because I don't think COVID is going to go away. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. But do you think the teams are going to look at it a bit more serious next year?
I mean, we already have seen two teams, Ferrari and Red Bull, changing their drivers, because Red Bull has Alex Albon, and Ferrari has Callum Ilott from Formula 2. That's two teams that have maybe potentially F1 talent as their reserve drivers, which is pretty massive, if you ask me. But smaller teams have to rely on the bigger teams' reserve drivers, because Renault, Racing Point and Williams listed as reserve drivers Stoffel van Dorn and Esteban Gutierrez, the same as their parent slash provider of engines, Mercedes. So that's weird for them. Haas, I say Haas is the only team that really had the reserve driver to fill the void that Roman Grosjean left, the empty space that Roman Grosjean left.
Yeah.
So that, but I believe F1 teams really know how to handle these things. And maybe sometimes you can't have the reserve driver you want, but then again, you struck a deal and you have Nico Hülkenberg, you have George Russell. That was massive. George Russell could have won this race. Stoffel van Dorn, I doubt that he would have the capacity to win that race.
Yeah.
That was massive for George as well.
Yeah. But, before we get there, I mean, let's talk about number 12. I mean, it was Portimao in Portugal.
Yep. That was a good one. Probably the best race of the new tracks, the tracks that either we hadn't seen ever in F1 or they hadn't been in F1 for a lot of years. Portimao is a great track. It was built for many different disciplines. F1 was one of them. The blind corners, the really fast parts of the track, not so many overtaking opportunities, but the one that you may have on the first corner is pretty massive. I mean, it's a great track, and it gave us a good race. Yeah, the best car and the best driver again. I mean, okay, but we had so many stuff to look at on the midfield battle, for example. It's a good track for F1 racing. I hope the empty space that Vietnam left on the 4th Grand Prix of the year in April will Portimao will fill that space and get the race they want.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't quite understand why Vietnam isn't coming in 2021, because
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. It's pretty simple. The guy that had the, if you like, the promotion of the race is in jail. So it's not a good look to have a race that the promoter of is in jail right now. He had confiscated some government money. That's not cool. So Vietnam is not on the list for 2021 for that reason, and maybe ever. It's pretty difficult for Vietnam to have a race ever at F1 after that.
Yeah, but didn't they build that track especially?
Yeah, but it's not a good look for the guy that organizes and promotes the Grand Prix to have such a scandal on his hands, because he was the one that was in charge for everything at Hanoi, and he was about to have a race, and then that scandal broke out. It's pretty difficult for them to actually get over this and overcome this. Maybe 2022 is a different thing, but for this for now, for the time being, Vietnam is pretty difficult to happen ever.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope Portimao gets it. Portimao or Mugello.
Mugello is pretty difficult, if you ask me. Or Portimao or Turkey. Turkey is the other country that tries to get this race.
Yeah, so and then we go on to the second one, to the number 13.
Yep.
13. It's Imola.
Yeah, that's a massive one. Classic track. Not so good for overtaking. Yes, it's a bit old school, but it's something different. It's pretty unique, and it's a great track to watch the race and actually drive an F1 car. All drivers agree that Imola is great.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a historic Grand Prix because Mercedes got their 7th consecutive world title as a constructor. Hamilton, he did not overcome Schumacher there, right?
No.
On wins. So yeah, it was only the constructors championship for Mercedes. Yeah, it was pretty weak, pretty unique. In Verstappen having that puncture gave us the weird stat that Verstappen didn't even finish a race in Italy this year.
Yeah.
If you think about it, Monza, Mugello, and Imola at last. But yeah, unique track, but we may not see it again in F1 for a very, very long time.
Yeah, but did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it because it's always fun to see how a modern F1 car is compared to a not so distant, but a car that was an F1 car from 2005 to 2006, the last time we went to Imola. The comparison was pretty weird because the massive F2020 cars and the smaller, less powerful but lighter F1 cars of 2005, 2006. We saw how racing was and is now. That's a good comparison. But yeah, it's a shame that it doesn't have the money to have a Grand Prix year.
Yeah, so let's move on then. Number
14.
14, yeah. Turkey.
Yeah.
I never thought that we was going back to Turkey, but thanks to COVID and this crazy season, we went back to Turkey.
Yeah. We went back to Turkey and not so many people expected it. Yeah, I get what you're saying. That was a weird race because the track was not ready to hold an F1 race. It had been resurfaced, the asphalt had resurfaced a couple of days ago, earlier, I should say. The rain didn't stop, but it was historic because that's when Lewis Hamilton equaled Michael Schumacher. The Sebastian Vettel podium was great. Was something that we will remember. His last podium with Ferrari, after all. Yeah, and the Lance Stroll pole position, that was a good one as well. That was a pretty unique situation. Right, point getting the first pole, third pole position, I should say, with Lance before they got the first win.
Yes. So let's move on to the first Bahrain.
Yep.
Grand Prix. What did you think about that one?
The Romain Grosjean crash, which was pretty scary. Thank God he's alive and well, and actually not thank God, I should say thank Dr. Ian Roberts and the medical car driver Alan van der Merwe. These two, with the marshals, were the ones that helped Grosjean on the spot. But Grosjean was helped by the thousands of scientists and engineers that helped build the monocoque, build the halo, build the barriers. It's a great feat of technology and science that Romain got out of this car with minor bruises and some burns on his hands.
Yeah, I mean, massive respect goes out to Ian Roberts and Alan van der Merwe, and of course Romain Grosjean, because if any of these three are watching, you're always welcome to come on my channel. But I thought and and I thought, and I really did think this. The first thought I had was he's not gonna he's not gonna get out of that one. And I did think it it reminded me straight of um Nicky Lauda's crash.
Yeah, that was my first thought as well, because I saw the fire and all that stuff. That was pretty weird. That was pretty scary. That was a moment that we all thought, oh, okay, that's really serious, because we saw a car going to the barriers, but we have seen that so many times. It's not something unfamiliar, and we always assume that, yeah, he will out of the car, maybe, be a bit disappointed. That's all. But then the fire, that explosion, actually, not a fire, that was just a big explosion that led to the fire, and that was on in our eyes. That was pretty scary, and it reminded me Niki Lauda's accident as well in Nürburgring in 1976. But then again, that's why we are in 2020, and we don't have another dead driver. F1 doesn't have one more dead driver, because it's not 1976. We have learned from our mistakes and our uh, our the little details that make the difference.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I mean, I mean, I tweeted. I mean, I couldn't actually do the review until the day after because I was so shocked.
yeah,
And I actually tweeted, whatever happens in that race now, I am, I don't really care as long as he is okay. Um,
yeah,
yeah, but again, massive kudos to everybody that's been involved, and let's Roman escaping with minor burns. Unfortunately, that was the last time he was in a race situation in a Formula One car, because at the out circuit, at the next Grand Prix, he obviously was replaced by um, um
Pietro.
Pietro Fittipaldi. So, what did you think about that race? I mean, for me, it was absolutely epic because Sergio Perez got his maiden win.
Yeah, it was pretty epic and pretty, uh, you know, um, unpredictable, because we had the Hamilton situation that he contracted COVID, and we had to find a replacement driver.
Yes.
Mercedes struck a deal with Williams to get George Russell for this race. He was on his way to win the Grand Prix.
Yes.
He would have won the Grand Prix. Then again, he had the unfortunate situation with the puncture. The pit stop, I believe the pit stop didn't cost him the win, because he had so much space after the pit stop that he was about to overcome every obstacle he had and overtake Sergio for the win. But then he had the puncture and all his hopes were lost. Sergio won. He deservedly won, because we should remind everyone that he was 18th and last after the first lap, and then he went on to win the race.
Exactly.
Which was pretty massive for him, and a big testament on his talent. I believe that's when Red Bull said, "Okay, yeah, we gotta sign that driver, because he has that fighting spirit that Red Bull really needs alongside Max Verstappen." So yes, I mean, Sakir Grand Prix, the outer circuit Bahrain Grand Prix, was interesting one, and a good experiment. What happens when a racetrack is below the 1 minute mark?
Yeah, I mean, that was crazy. That was absolutely crazy. One thing I want to ask you though: do you think it saved Sergio Perez's career? that
Yeah,
win.
I believe that. I mean, I don't have the report to show it because my understanding is Red Bull thought about. That's what I learned. Thought about the Perez situation right after they saw that he was available. Right after Sebastian Vettel was announced as a Racing Point Aston Martin driver, whatever, for at Mugello, the
Yeah,
Mugello
yeah.
Grand Prix. So that's when Red Bull thought like, okay, let's have Sergio Perez on our radar because Alex Albon doesn't perform so much. Even though he got to podiums, he was not a bit, he was inconsistent. He had not very good results overall. He lost many points for the team. But his win was like, that's when even Dietrich Mateschitz, the Red Bull owner, was convinced that he should have the place instead of Alex Albon, because we should say that Dietrich Mateschitz really wanted Alex Albon to have the race seat alongside Verstappen. Helmut Marko and Christian Horner wanted Sergio Perez. They got to convince him after the win at Sakir. That's the point that they said, okay, well, Sergio is a proven talent. He's old enough to know his worth. Let's get him over for 1 year and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, and I think even Lawrence Stroll said it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same to lose. I mean, Lawrence Stroll fired him, but he's smart enough to know that Sergio Perez is a great driver for what Red Bull needs him to be. He's not a championship caliber driver. He doesn't have the capacity to win the championship. That's what he has shown us, at least. But he's a driver that can be consistent and have the points for a team that aims for the championship.
Okay. So let's go on and go for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
I have nothing to say. I mean, it was pretty boring, pretty straightforward. I could not wait for it to end. Yeah, because it's very tiresome. All this year was very condensed, and 17 races in 24 weeks, or 23 weeks, I should say. Pretty condensed, pretty tiresome. Abu Dhabi was yeah, let's get over with it. I don't care.
Okay, so finally, let's start with some 2021 predictions to finish off. What's the most crazy prediction?
Mine?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't thought of it so much, but I believe, and that's something that I don't think that it's easy to happen, but I believe Alonso will win 1 or 2 races with Renault.
Okay.
He will get that.
I reckon, and this is crazy. I reckon Sergio Perez is gonna win 3 races with Red Bull.
3? That's a lot.
Yes.
Maybe.
And then the other prediction is that there's going to be tension between Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez.
That's more possible. I think that they will have some battles. 3 wins for Sergio, I don't know. 1, maybe. That's, yeah, but 3, it's a big one. If he gets 3 wins, that's a massive feat.
Okay, and the final one is that my boy Nico Hülkenberg is gonna make another appearance, at least one appearance. Well, with Aston Martin.
Maybe some driver contracts COVID or what? Something like that.
Yes, like I don't think 2020 was the last time we saw Nico Hülkenberg?
Probably, I mean, it can happen. Maybe Nico Hülkenberg will be named like a reserve driver for the team, just so he is available, and he is more aware that he has to be there for a driver that gets the COVID. Yeah, that's possible. I hope that we don't need to see him for a COVID situation. Maybe Haas will oust Nikita Mazepin and then get Nico. But I don't know. I'm just hoping.
Yeah, I mean, what talking about Mick Schumacher making his debut in 2021. What do you think he can achieve?
I think we should have in mind that we should give him time. I mean, he has the biggest name in motorsport to handle, Schumacher. There's no, you don't go bigger than this, especially in F1. He has to be precise on his ways, and he has to be patient. He has to be patient because he has shown us that he needs some time to get accustomed to a new series, a new category that he's racing. And Formula One, yes, it's pretty big and the pressure is immense, but I believe that Haas will give him the time, Ferrari will give him the time, and I believe that he will do great. Some points finishing and something like that will be, I believe, the ceiling of his performance, because Haas is not so good after all.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And the final question I'm going to get to you.
Yep.
Carlos Sainz or versus Leclerc, who is going to come out on top?
Charles, easily. It's his team. He has the upper hand. He knows the car. He knows the ways of the team. He has confidence. Carlos will be competitive, I believe. He is a competitive driver, but he's not on the level of Charles Leclerc as of now. Maybe in 2022, he will have that confidence as well, and it will be a different situation. But I do believe that Charles Leclerc will be number one. The team will handle him as a number one, and that will be shown on the results and on the performance on the track.
Yeah. So cheers, Dimitri, for doing this with me. Have you got any more to say? Have you got any more to say?
Merry Christmas, everybody. Have happy holidays, happy New Year. It was pretty difficult for all of us. Some of us have lost people of our own from COVID. Other people lost their jobs. So many stuff that happened. I hope 2021 will be a better year for everyone.
Yeah, I've got not more to say to that, and other than thank you to Dimitri for doing this with me.
Thank you.
And no doubt we will hook up again sometime. Maybe next year I'm gonna come on your channel or something. We do a podcast together.
Yep.
But we got to work on that one. So cheers for watching, guys, and have a good Christmas, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.